Salutations, hello, YouTube and the world. I'm coming to you today because I had this dream many, many years ago, and I've always kept it to myself. But in light of recent events, I've felt the strong need to share it. Also, I had woken up from what I thought was a restful night's sleep, but with this heavy sinking feeling in my chest, and I can't understand why. But I felt this need to record this video and record this dream and put it out there and just, I want people's opinions, see what you think of it. Also felt this need because uh, the director of the FBI is trying to blame black people for the inefficiencies and ineffectiveness of police officers being able to do their job, which for some reason now entails harassing, beating, and killing black folks or people in general, but mostly black folks. And that young lady who got into a car accident, and instead of taking her to um, the hospital, the police took her to jail and she died. My strongest feeling on that is that she did not die, she was murdered. Sandra Bland was murdered, but she was an activist. This is different. I don't get the same feeling from it, and that's the reason why I woke up and with this need to share this dream. Today is May 18th, 2016. So that's where I'm coming from. So let's see here. To get in on the dream, it was a dream I had many, many years ago in an apartment building that I lived in. I used to have a television. The dream happened probably I was new to that building, so it was probably in 2004, 2005. I don't remember because I wrote it down, and for the life of me, I can't find that dream. I like to write my dreams down, keep track of it, but I don't have a specific journal, so unfortunately, I don't know where it is. But the dream starts off. I wake up out of bed, get ready, go to work. People are kind of on edge. You know how in the summer when it's really hot, people are really on edge and they are always trying to go after each other and they get into arguments really easily. It was a day like that. People were arguing, kind of back and forth. Didn't think much of it. Go to work. It seems to be heightened. Still don't think anything of it. It's a beautiful sunny day, which is a big deal because I live in a city that has a lot of overcast. So the fact that it's a clear sunny day, warm weather, I just assumed it was that. I go home. On my ride home, I take public transport. I notice that people are just really seem on edge. So all I kept thinking was, well, just get home. I'll be fine. I'm not going to worry about it. So go to sleep. Wake up the next day. This is day two. Basically rinse and repeat. I go to work, get ready for work, go to work. People are really on edge. I mean, people are now getting into actual fights. They're not just yelling, screaming, and pushing each other. They're actually coming to blows. So I don't think much of it, and I just try to stay out of the fray. By the middle of the day, we're being sent home. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, because violence is just erupting all over the city, and people are just freaking out. And nobody knows what to do. So our boss is like, well, let's just go home early. So this is probably around noon ish. The boss sends us home. And then, I'm on my way home and I'm noticing people are just yelling at me and they're trying to pick fights with me. And I'm just like, I'm not having this. And all of a sudden, I get off my bus at the stop closest to my house. I took a different route, one of two routes I can take home, get off the stop. And I'm noticing there's this, a small little group of people following me, yelling at me. And so I just take off. I take off, run into my apartment building, run into my apartment, don't even check the mailbox, shut my door, barricade my door, and just let it ride. As the night goes on, it's gotten violent. You can hear gunshots, you hear people screaming, just people, I mean, just like yelling and violence, and they're just beating each other and beating each other. And it just seems really weird. It's really creepy. Fair enough. So the next day, wake up, turn on the tube. No indication that I'm going to work. I'm not going to work. Let's just put it that way. And it was a good thing because nobody was really going to work. Um, Come to find out over the night that people were being, of course, like I said, shot and killed. and the violence was didn't start dying down until around probably 11 o'clock noon, 1 o'clock ish the next day. But all through the night and the early morning, people were still going after each other and killing each other. So I stay in my apartment. I stay quiet as I can so that people don't know I'm home. My door's still barricaded. And then as nightfall comes, we start getting reports that the violence has died down. People are, you know, kind of going home. There's blood and body in the streets. All is whatever it is. So I go to sleep. I barricade myself in my room, go to sleep. I have a knife under the bed. I'm going to do what I can. Wake up the next day, and that's when it all really hits the fan. There are reports all over the world of people very angry and very upset, but not because people were dying, but because there is this massive slaughter. And we come to find out that the targets were black people. Basically, if you saw black, you kill black. Or anyone darkly melanated, but it was mostly black Africanoid people. And so what ended up happening is you're going through this, and this process takes a few days in my dream, where they're getting reports from all over the world. And slowly, after people realized, what had happened, people were reporting to the news that they felt that they were in a fog and in a daze. They knew they were killing these people, but they had no reason as to why. They just felt compelled that when they saw a black person, they wanted to kill them. And then, it starts coming out that what was happening was a huge mind control experiment worldwide. And it really hits the fan. So this is in the morning that we're learning, that people are upset. And then it isn't until early or late morning, I should say, that we find out it was a massive, somebody let it leak. Some government official leaked that it was a massive mind control experiment worldwide. And they decided to basically control people's minds. And the objective was to kill as many black people as you saw, which left millions, tens of millions of black people worldwide dead. So people start getting angry. Even the white supremacists were livid because they're like, well, wait a second, yeah, I want to kill some black people, but I want to do it on my own terms. They didn't like the idea that they could be compelled into doing something that, whether they wanted to or not, somebody else told them to do it. And then you had people who were very nice, pacifist type people who wouldn't really engage in that sort of behavior. After this, it comes out, all of a sudden, all these massive suicides start because these people were compelled to do something that they may have never, ever normally done. So mass suicide starts. And so I'm watching the news, and by late afternoon, we start getting reports from around the world. There wasn't really much to report in the Americas other than black people died. Europe was the same thing. Black people were killed. A heck of a lot didn't come out of the Middle East either. What was interesting to note was in Africa, there was no reports. Now, mind you, there are non-African melanated people in Africa. There are a lot of white people, white Europeans more so, and white people who were born and raised. There are people from India, Chinese, all different types of Asians, Middle Easterners. Lots of people are in Africa throughout the continent. But there was no reports from Africa. It was almost like they had no connection to the world. So nobody reported anything out of Africa. Throughout the Asian countries, China stood out the most because in China, I don't know if people know, they have these things called ghost cities, where they build these mega cities to house people, and people aren't living there, so they call them ghost cities. And so what ended up happening was somehow, or maybe just out of benevolence, the Chinese government took all the heavily melanated people, the Africans, because there's a huge African population in certain parts of China, and they shoved them in these ghost cities. And only Chinese officials were allowed to go in, but they were only allowed to go in for a certain amount of time to help get them acclimated and settled. But they could only go in a few at a time. So say like 10 Chinese officials could go in, register in everybody, but once they started feeling jittery, they had to leave. And then the next set, because it was see black, kill black. And I thought it was interesting because I wondered if it was a religious thing, because, Asians meditate more often, but in India they meditate, and they were killing black people or dark-skinned Indians as well. So that was a very interesting note, was that these, the Chinese people actually were prepared. Then another interesting note came out of Australia, that before any of this went down, all of the, dare I say, pure blood or purer blood Aboriginals disappeared. I will repeat that. All of the pure blood or melanated, highly melanated, dark skinned Aboriginals in Australia, before any of this happened, they all literally disappeared. There was no sign of them. There are a lot of people who are Aboriginals who are like Native Americans. They are not what I would say pure blood. They're they're mixed. They're either mixed first generation, third generation. They have 1/100th of an Aboriginal, DNA, but they disappeared before it happened. So it made me wonder, well, what spiritual level were they on that they disappeared? So as this is coming about, a few more days are coming over, and we're just getting basically the same reports, because the news can never be anything original or exciting. And basically, this event, worldwide event, changed the world forever. Because then what ended up happening is people had a huge mistrust of the government and started protesting against the government. So after the guilt and suicide, people started having mistrust, and they started attacking government officials, government buildings. They were livid because it's like, how can you do a mass control mind experiment on the human population? And it literally changed the human population forever. So what ended up happening is, all of a sudden one day we wake up and all black people in the world knew they had a choice, yes or no, stay or go. I was one of the people who decided to go. Now, I don't know where this option came from or who it was, if we were going to another dimension, if we were being picked up by UFOs, if we were ascending, but I was one of the people who said, I'm going to go. And because it's my dream. I mean, it's all about me. So I had to deal with family and friends, because I have a lot of white friends and I have family members who are Caucasian. And a lot of people were very angry that I decided to leave. And so we come to find out that something like 98% of the world's black population left. Where we went, I don't know. My dream does not tell me that. Because right at that point that happens, what happened after, what happened in my dream world was that the dream rewound itself and went back to the point where I was being followed in the beginning of the dream. You know how I was going home and I was being followed by that mob of white people, or mob of people. They did happen to be white, I just wasn't paying attention. A mob of people. And I was running into my apartment building and I heard a gunshot, and then I woke up. So basically, I had two endings to this dream, one where I survive and I see what happens, and one where I'm killed. And so I just find it very interesting with what's going on and things seemingly out of place. If, who out there on YouTube has a feeling about it? What are their, feelings on it? And I know, sure, there's going to be the racists and the trolls who are going to say, yeah, die, nigger, die. Fine, whatever. But I just find it very interesting that no matter what happens, there always seems to be this mark on us as black folks, melanated, Africanoid, whatever you want to call us. But to have a dream like that, where that sort of thing process happens, and the fact that the Chinese were prepared for it, which I'm not really shocked, because Chinese are notorious for being um, ahead of the game, a lot more ahead of the game than we give credit for. So that is my dream. Give me your opinion. I've got to head in and go to my day job, do my hustle. Uh, Many happy journeys and prosperity to you all. Thank you.